And this is what's crazy to me is, I mean, if you've ever if you've ever read The Art of War,
That's it.
it all talks about psychological warfare. And I feel like this, just a small little fraction of it, is such a prime example of psychological warfare. You don't think of things out and you don't think about consequence and effect, and you can change people's behavior simply by just what you're showing them, and they're willingly watching it. And when I see movements and organizations and nonprofits and apps literally being made for how to kill addiction, how to go back to a minimalistic lifestyle without technology. There's literally a movement to shift back to what we are, but it's impossible. That's why I know that people are literally trapped. And that is so scary. Like, I deleted TikTok 2 years ago. I have Instagram and I deleted that, but I still have to go back to it because of how much stuff is on Instagram. All my friends are there, everything. And I go
Yeah.
into Instagram and I just want to see what people are up to. And the first thing I see is reels. Why? What Instagram isn't a reels platform. It's not. Why are we doing that? And I go into YouTube. The first thing I see is reels. It's not a reels platform. Why am I seeing that? And that's scary. It's for a reason. Companies wouldn't adopt such a like this thing so widespread if it wasn't for such a good reason.
You're absolutely right. And it's there is another study, I was just looking it up while you were talking, that is from a addiction recovery center. Arista Recovery is just the first one that came up. But in this team did some research in the early 2000s, and they found that the focus shifted to new things roughly every 2.5 minutes on an electronic device. Which at the time we were all saying, oh my God, now nobody can pay attention to a lecture because now we're changing every 2-3 minutes, right? And now they've repeated the same study and it's down to 47 seconds. And I do think that means that what you're doing, I think, okay, and I'd be interested what you guys think of this, but I think that is some sort of psychological warfare, whether people realize it or not. But you end up giving so much power to the content generators, to the people who can create an emotional connection, rather than reading the detail and examining all of the contradictions. All you do is you spend 47 seconds reading TikTok, watching a TikTok. You don't even watch a full 47 seconds, and your opinion is formed, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's your opinion. Now you're sharing it, you're commenting on it, you're sharing it with other people, and the power goes to who has the most emotional connection rather than who has the right answer.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I'm 1000% Jesse, do you have a comment on that? Because if not, I do.
No, go ahead. I have a whole lot I'm holding back on because I'm gonna
No,
vent and rage. Jesse, we're here to not hold back. Don't hold back, Jesse. Go ahead and share whatever you're thinking. Then I'm probably gonna jump in.
So I fully agree. I think one of the major problems is we don't have long-term thinking. And so you don't think about the effects of a lot of the power hungry systems. And the fact that there's creators that go on, I'm using TikTok as a prime example because that's where it all started.
That's
And if you think about exactly what you just said, why do we have political candidates? I see more political stuff on TikTok than I do anywhere else, or on Reels, I should say, than anywhere else. And I see more political content and religious content and like global policy content and all this stuff on Reels more than I do anywhere else. If you want to know where to find something, go look it up. You'll probably see it in a reel.
Yeah.
Why? Why is that
what?
the case?
You won't believe this, Reese, but there was a time when we got our political information from the nightly news.
I know.
We only
And I
got it
remember
once a
that.
day.
I remember watching the news and I remember cable TV and I thoroughly miss it.
You know what? I'm gonna be honest, and I'm gonna share something I normally don't talk about publicly, but I love me some little baby Jesus. I like little baby Jesus. He's a buddy of mine. But you know what?
Way to put that. Thanks.
I don't know. I've had these conversations got me worked up, but so I love little baby Jesus, and I don't need some Hollywood A-lister, B-lister, or wannabe C-lister telling me how I should think.
Just because they're famous.
when it comes to anything. Because, and I've sat here and I have not thought out most of this. Like, it's not, I will tell the entire audience, we literally had almost no concept of what we were going to talk about today. It was just whatever shit the fan. So,
Well,
they had an idea. That guy right there without hair had an idea.
that's right. That guy.
Pointing at you, Joe. But I mean, Reese, you've seriously hit on something that it goes back to a conversation I had not long ago. Because, and I'll tell that conversation here in a minute, but you know, when you have all this short form content, you're literally training your brain to not pay attention to cause and effect. It's what you just said. That is so fucking spot on. And so what happens is you don't pay attention to shit. You don't think about the consequences stuff. You just think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Oh, probably shouldn't do that. Oh, that feels wrong. Oh, that's not right. How the fuck are we going to ever have another Goonies-like moment for anyone in America? People are so worried about being PC. People are so worried that we're getting an entire generation of sterile character. We're sterilizing an entire generation's character. You want to know why you have these like teenagers and tweens sitting on their fucking ass at home? Sorry, I'm getting pissed now. Sitting on their ass at home.
This is good stuff.
You are sitting there sterilizing them. You are shooting all this video. You're fucking spying on them with cameras everywhere. You're taking the power. You're showing them who's the boss. They have no freedom of growth and personal discovery. No. I grew up in the 80s. Thank you. I grew up in the 90s. Thank you. You know, I know someone here probably grew up in the 70s. That's great. My daughter grew up in the late 2000s. That was at a pivotal moment, like she shared. But you know what? I sit there and I'm talking with my niece the other day.
Oh my gosh.
And she's literally sharing with me how, because she's been doing all of our awareness training.
Okay.
We've been literally testing. Some of our beta test groups have been enterprise. They've been Soho, small, medium enterprise. There's been students, you know, like middle school, high school, college, senior citizens. We've been giving them access to how does our system work? How does it feel? What's not intuitive? Do you understand the training? Does this whiteboard animation style fit with you? We care about this. We don't want to just throw shit at you. And some of the things I got out of that, like my niece having this conversation with me not long ago of how she's now like, she understands that she doesn't want to go outside because there's so much mental fixation and adrenaline and dopamine and oxytocin that is released. And while sitting on your phone on this short form content, looking at whatever, that even TV and movie, when we have fucking Marvel movies becoming boring to people because they can't pay attention to a Marvel movie.
That is insane.
Maybe having some problems putting out good content, but
no, that last Marvel movie was a bit of a drag, but I get your point. Yeah.
We have a problem there. And what is this? It's all power hungry stuff. It's parents putting up cameras everywhere. It's the cameras going down the street. Cameras everywhere, feeding this data so that when a kid screws off doing something stupid, learning their natural boundaries in life that all of us did, and every generation before them for hundreds of years in this country. But now we're going to start spanking them and disciplining them.
And now you're going to get questioned. You're going to get questioned about it in your job interview 20 years later. And if you get a speeding ticket because of that thing that you did, you end up, serving a month in jail or whatever the rule is, right?
And what's crazy? And what's crazy for me is number one now, because now the question is what do we do? Because going outside and going.
This is where I wanted to go. Yeah. So what do we do?
Yeah.
Hold on. Before we get there,
I want to make
one more point.
Fine. And I was going to say one more thing too.
All right.
Not only have we got to this, I'm going to spank you over flipping everything way of life. I'm not just talking about parents. I'm talking about school and society and I mean, police sitting there just watching cameras to see what happens. They're seeing, just to wait and see. Okay. The first of us without sin cast the first stone. I don't know, just saying. But, you know, there's the entire other side of it. The side that Reese and I look at every day. Because now that same data that everyone else is watching, do you really think is absolutely secure? For those parents that have the Ring cameras in their house to monitor your kids to make sure they don't fight, like little Jimmy and Susie doesn't fight, and you have these cameras inside, do you think other people's not looking in your house? I can fucking promise you
They are.
cameras are accessible.
They are.
And that shit happens. You are not the only one with access to that data.
I agree. And
insiders that work for the company, bad. You fall for a scam, someone gets your login and password, all sorts of ways it happens. Think about that as you want to monitor every little thing. The number of, and I'm just going to say Ring. I fucking love Ring cameras. Amazing product. But in 2019, they ended up with a class action lawsuit because they didn't have MFA. Judge ruled that they should have been requiring it. It wasn't, they didn't actually get breached. People were reusing passwords. You want to reuse your password? It's a good way to get hacked.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, your account gets logged in and people see your kids sleeping. They see you walking through your house in your tidy whities. That should be your fault because you were negligent.
agreed. I agree completely.
Schools, the number of schools that have had data breaches.
Oh my gosh.
And even their cameras end up exposed on the internet, and people are watching students walking around halls and entering the bathroom, watching them play sports in the gym. Yes, that's creepy and fucked up. But you know what? It's happening.
Yeah.
All this surveillance is not necessarily a good thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, power hungry.
I'm actually terrified of the surveillance. I mean, I think that there's a huge issue with that. And my question is, because I do see, and you guys correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I think there is this shift away from individual power towards this power of the masses. You know, it's not even a defined thing. You don't even know what the benchmark is anymore. It's whatever the masses say you've done right or wrong, and it can change based on the day. It can change, certainly based on the year, and so if you're living in that world, there's this constant judgment and trying to manage it, and so the individual just loses agency, I think.
Yeah,
and that's the problem.
And it depends based on which bubble you're in, because there's a mass in this bubble, but if you step out of this bubble and go into this bubble, there's a whole nother mass with a whole nother set of rules. So you don't even know how to behave over here.
All created by these algorithms that Reese is talking about with short form content that builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and puts you in a bubble.
Yeah.
We don't by the way, we don't naturally belong in bubbles, because there was a long time when we could have political debates and not hate each other. There was a long time when we could disagree. We could disagree and not be enemies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a bizarre thing that we've taken on now, that we say, oh, if you don't agree with me, if you're not part of my bubble, not only do I disagree with you, but I hate you and you're my enemy, and I'm going to start calling you names.
Even back when it was like, Kennedy and Nixon would debate, and it was always my esteemed colleague, the esteemed gentleman from, there was always this cordiality and this respect and this formality for the other side. And now it's like that lying, cheating, lock her up. And that
Nazi or that brain dead, Yep.
Because that's what creates the soundbite that you can play over and over and over again.
Yeah.
So what do we do, guys? we're going to have to wrap up at some point, even though this has been a great conversation. I've had more fun today than I've had in a long time. But
we have to do a part two.
What do we do? Like, does that mean, is it just we have to put MFA on everything? Do I get rid of, take Alexa out of the room? Do we have to fight against Palantir? Like, what do we do?
You can go ahead, Jesse.